I'm Stephanie Catalano, licensed clinical social worker and personal development author. Welcome to Mindful Makeover, a podcast for women who want to learn how to live mindfully, become deliberate thinkers, and align with their true essence and most authentic self. The fact that you're here with me not only tells me you're ready to begin reaching your highest potential, but also sends a powerful message to the universe. I've had an opportunity to work with hundreds of women to help them tap into their inner power and create the life they desire, and nothing makes me feel more alive than to be a witness to a person's individualized transformation and growth. If you're ready to achieve your mindful makeover and create the life you desire, then let's get started. Each episode will leave you feeling educated, empowered, and elevated. Hey everyone, welcome back to this week's episode. I just returned home from Greece, which is why I was absent the last 2 weeks from recording. We were in Greece for 2 weeks and it was truly the most beautiful place I think I've ever visited. We went to Santorini and Mykonos. Can't compare the two because they were so different, but I absolutely loved both of them. I went away as a girlfriend and returned home as a fiance. Yes, I'm engaged. It's even crazy to hear myself say that out loud. 5 years ago, if anyone would have told me I'd be married one day, I would have laughed in their face and never believed them. For so long, I didn't believe I was worthy of love, and quite frankly, I became incredibly comfortable with being alone. I found it to be easy and to be safe. And true story, I actually told myself that my life's purpose was to be a single parent fostering children that had been removed from their parents due to abuse, neglect, and abandonment. I even started foster parent classes at one time, and at that time I was living in a one-bedroom apartment in a downtown area of West Palm Beach, which is in South Florida for those of you who don't know. And in order to become a foster parent through the agency I was working with, you needed to have at least a 2-bedroom, so it didn't work out. And I truly believe that was a divine intervention. God knew that there was more for me and something bigger planned for my life, and there would be no way I could fulfill that role with a bunch of foster kids. So needless to say, I didn't become a foster parent, but it makes for a good story. And my friends and I used to joke and say, you know, there's 2 types of ladies, the cat lady, and then there's you, the foster kid lady. Needless to say, though, it's really, really cool to witness transformation, whether it be your own or someone else's, because I don't know about you guys, I know for me, I have come so far. If you follow me on Instagram, which is at mindfulliving.now, you might have seen the picture I posted of me and my fiance, which was right after I said yes. We were standing on a cliff overlooking the sea, watching the sunset. It was the most magical spiritual moment of my life. As I stood there, a thought popped in my head. It was a familiar thought, one that I actually had when I was 26 years old. And standing there, I thought to myself, wow, I get it. Everything in my life led me here to this very point, where at that moment I was standing on a cliff overlooking the beautiful island of Santorini. And I was reminded that what I once thought was the worst thing that happened to me was actually the best thing that happened to me. And I want to invite you guys to think about that question. What if the worst thing that ever happened to you was the best thing that ever happened to you? 5 years ago, when I was 26 years old, I had a very awakening moment where suddenly the things that used to cripple me made me feel open and full of gratitude. In the last episode, I shared how at age 24, I started to do the self-work to heal my wounds. I remember putting forth the work through every single way you could think of. Therapy, yoga, meditating, exercise, kickboxing, writing, and really anything that I felt would help me, because at that point of my life, I was so lost and broken. I was filled with anger and rage that I would take out on myself, and I was willing to do whatever to get better, and I did. I'll never forget one day, though, in particular. At this point, I was 26, and 2 years had gone by since I started my journey of healing. I was living alone in an adorable apartment downtown, and for the most part, I was well. I was working in my field of study, which was with children in foster care, so it makes sense that I wanted to become the foster kid lady, and overall, I felt content. I still had my demons that would pop up, but I was better at managing them, if that makes any sense. I can remember waking up one Saturday morning and I felt different. I can't tell you why or how, it was just a feeling. I remember the way I saw my apartment, it even looked different. although nothing was new or changed. For some reason, on this morning, everything looked and felt different. I remember this morning I decided instead of going to the gym like I usually would, I was going to go on a walk. As I walked downstairs, the air literally felt like it was hugging me and saying good morning. I remember as I started to walk down the sidewalk, I felt like I was walking towards a loved one who I hadn't seen in a while or into my childhood home. It was a very inviting, comforting feeling. For the first time in a very long time, I started to walk with my head up, and not just up looking forward, but I mean up looking to the sky. This was so different for me because for years and years, I would walk with my head down. I was so consumed by shame and guilt, I didn't want anyone to see me, not even the crossing guards. I can vividly remember feeling really curious. I was experiencing the unknown and I was okay with it. The feeling that I'm talking about, it felt right. It felt like something I needed, something that had been calling me. And yes, it had been 2 years since my self-healing journey started, but those 2 years weren't easy. Every day was a constant fight to stay on my course of healing. I think sometimes people think healing is going to be this easy 1, 2, 3 process, or there is this certain magic formula to follow, and if you do it for 30 to 60 days, boom, you're going to be healed. And that's not the case. Healing is a daily commitment, and even as I sit here at 31, I have to recommit myself to my spiritual practice every single moment because it's in that spiritual practice that I have found healing. So going back to that Saturday morning where I was on my walk, I ended up on Palm Beach Island and I went to Starbucks, ordered an iced coffee, and continued my walk. In this moment as I'm speaking, I can still feel that feeling. It was this feeling of, it's okay, you're enough, you're where you need to be. It's almost like a voice that I was hearing telling me those things. I ended up finding this stunningly beautiful deep-rooted tree in a park where I sat on the floor, and under it, in that moment, for the first time in my entire life, I felt like I had a sense of belonging, that I had a purpose, and that my life had meaning. I couldn't tell you what it was, but it didn't matter. What mattered is how I felt. And honestly, I owe a lot to that tree because I can remember sitting there on the ground, grass and dirt, you name it, and staring up at this tree, and I related to it. It was like the first thing that I ever related to was a tree, and I mean that. I was that person that, yes, I had a lot of friends, but when I went to, in high school, it was all cliques, and not that I didn't fit in, I think I fit in, but there was always a part of me that did feel different, and I never really felt connected. So for me, fitting in was one thing, but connected was something different. And I connected to this tree. I remember looking at it thinking, wow, you're a lot like me, like you have brown leaves, but somehow you're still beautiful, and there's branches that are missing, but somehow you still look whole, and so on and so forth. So needless to say, that tree resonated with me, and it was a very healing, awakening moment of my life. And I think so often people are looking to the outside for their happiness or to feel whole, and that was once me. I don't know where you are in your journey, but if I can share any wisdom with you, it is to know and to trust you are where you need to be, and there is nothing outside of you that can make you happy and whole. This is something that you must cultivate from the inside out. It took me years and years to realize this, but trust me, no matter what you have, where you end up, if you aren't transforming yourself from the inside out, you will not be able to sustain the feeling of happiness or wholeness. Also, I think, yeah, of course, are there people, places, and things that add to our life and make us feel good? Of course there is. But you have to be truly satisfied with who you are, where you are, and comfortable in your own skin. And the only way to do that is to give yourself the time and the space to get to know yourself and become in touch with your wounds and your inner critic, like I talked about in the last episode, and really overcome those things, knowing that you aren't defined by anything that has happened to you, and you also aren't defined by your thoughts, your feelings, your beliefs, or your behaviors. I truly, truly believe every single one of us are made of pure divine goodness. But then life happens, and it happens really fast, and somewhere along the way we lose ourselves. But please know, at any moment, you can choose to change your perspective, you can choose to heal, and you can choose better and more. That is the power of choice. Every single one of us, we've been given that privilege, and that's the privilege of choosing. And we get to decide, are we going to choose what serves us, or are we going to choose what continues to hurt us and hold us back? I used to choose the things that were hurting me and holding me back, and I didn't even realize I was choosing them. It was this crazy thing that I was keeping myself in this vicious, sick cycle, and I had no idea that I was choosing it because I was programmed, I was conditioned, and we all are. But we also have the ability to choose consciousness, which is to tap into that power, the power of free will, the power of choosing what's better for you and breaking free from the condition, the old ways. And it's a journey, it's a learning thing. So, anyways, before I go off on that tangent, because I could talk about this stuff for hours, going back to when I was 26 and I started to realize there was something greater than me and believe there was meaning and purpose for my life, till the very moment just 2 weeks ago where I became engaged, it hasn't been easy. But what I'm getting at is that every step of life is leading you where you're supposed to be. And in the moment when things are happening, it's really, really easy to lose sight of the bigger picture. Whether it's you're in a relationship and you and your partner got in an argument, whether it's you lost your job, whether it's you woke up and you're just in a bad mood for some reason, whether it's your anxiety's at an all-time high, whatever it is, I get it. In that heat of the moment, it truly feels like the world is ending, but it's not. It's so important to know that every step is taking you to the next step, and you always are where you're supposed to be. Life is truly about experiencing and enjoying life in the present moment and learning to accept what is, and beyond accepting it, practicing gratitude and choosing what matters. I'm going to say that again because it's so important. Choosing what matters. So often we get so caught up on focusing on the areas of our life that are lacking, what we don't have, what's missing, or the one or two flaws that we see in ourselves, and we completely discount all the positives, all the beauty. So please give yourself permission to slow down, reevaluate, regroup, do whatever you have to do to stay in a place of gratitude and choose what matters. Looking back, sure, could I say I wasted so much time and energy on things that didn't matter? Of course, I'm sure you can relate, but I didn't know any better, and I'm sure you're doing the best you can too. I invite you to begin or continue speaking love into yourself, to respect your journey and the individual process you're on of your own evolution. If you take anything away from this episode, I hope you'll give yourself time to think about the question from earlier. What if the worst thing that happened to you was the best thing that happened to you? Give yourself some time to think about that and maybe even journal about it. Allow yourself to really get clear on the one thing you've been holding on to that is blocking you from feeling free and evolving into the highest version of you. Most times we are the only ones that are holding ourselves back. We keep ourselves shackled for whatever reason, and I'm here to tell you, not everything is meant to be understood. Sometimes by not understanding, you understand, and by not knowing, you know. It's this weird thing, don't ask, I don't know, but it just works. It's how it works. And there's no timeline to healing. There's no timeline to growing. There's no timeline to reaching your highest potential. Everyone is different, and what works for some might not work for someone else, and that's completely okay. The bravest thing a person could ever do is give themselves permission to let go of the things that hold them back and rise up in light. I always remind myself that my past deserves to rest and my future needs me. The same goes for you. It's time to let your past go and your future needs you. All right, well, like I said earlier, I could keep going on, but I'm going to stop there for today. I really want you guys to give yourself some time to soak everything up that was shared in this episode. Journal, give yourself space to really process it, whatever came up for you. And I just want to thank you all seriously from the bottom of my heart for joining me. Don't forget, wherever you are, it's where you're meant to be. And I'm going to leave you with this affirmation. If it resonates, please take it away and use it. And if it doesn't resonate, leave it here. Everything is happening for my highest and best self. All is well. I am whole. All right, ladies, forever beaming love and light to you. Chat soon. Thank you for joining me today. If you found today's episode to be insightful and inspiring, subscribe so you don't miss out on the next one. And I kindly ask that you please leave me a review so together we can help the next person. If interested in scheduling, coaching, counseling, public speaking, or workshops, check out www.themindfulliving.com and come connect with me on Instagram at mindfulliving.now, where I share daily inspiration, mindful skills, tips, and more. Mindful Makeover 30-day workbook and guide for women is available on Amazon, or you can find the link on my website and in my Instagram bio. Until the next episode, stay mindful and always remember the power that lives inside of you.